It finally happened. After years of whispers, King Charles has made the call that ends one of the strangest royal arrangements in history. Prince Andrew is being stripped of his titles, and he and Sarah Ferguson are being forced out of the royal lodge, the home they shared long after their divorce. Fergie, who once called it her safe haven, was reportedly in tears as the news broke. For decades, she stood by Andrew through every scandal and storm, but what happens when the palace shuts its doors on her for good? The shocking royal decision. It was the kind of royal news that sent shockwaves through Britain and beyond. Buckingham Palace confirmed that Prince Andrew would be stripped of his remaining royal titles and ordered to leave the royal lodge, the home he's shared with Sarah Ferguson for decades. This wasn't gossip or tabloid exaggeration. The message came directly from King Charles himself, signaling that the king had finally run out of patience. For Andrew, it was more than a demotion. It was an exile. For Fergie, it was the end of the only life she's known since marrying into the royal family. The Royal Lodge wasn't just another royal property, it was their world, a 30-room home filled with memories, family portraits, and the rare sense of normalcy that both Fergie and Andrew clung to after their divorce. They lived there quietly, away from the pomp, but still under the palace's shadow, calling it a comfortable coexistence. But that comfort vanished the moment the king's order arrived. Reports say Fergie broke down in tears, completely shattered by the news. She'd always stood by Andrew, defending him publicly and privately, even when it hurt her reputation. To be told they had to pack up and leave felt like a cruel twist of fate, as if loyalty itself had been punished. For Charles, this was about more than family. It was about the crown's credibility. The monarchy has been under fire for years, and the Epstein scandal that continues to stain Andrew's name made things even worse. The king knew he couldn't risk another headline suggesting royal indulgence or favoritism. The message was clear: no one, not even his brother, is untouchable. And by personally approving the eviction, Charles sent a strong signal that the new era of the monarchy would be one of accountability, even if it came at a painful cost.
Fergie apparently has lived in the house for much of that time, to the bloke that she could not stay married to, that was not married to for 30 years.
Behind palace walls, it's said that the mood turned cold. What once was a quiet truce between the brothers has now turned into a silent fracture. Andrew, reportedly stunned, is said to be refusing to leave until he's given a suitable replacement home, while Fergie is left to pick up the emotional pieces. She's losing not just her home, but the final thread that tied her to royal life. For her, this isn't just a move. It's the closing scene of a 30-year story that's ending in heartbreak. Fergie and Andrew's unusual living arrangement. It's hard to think of another ex-couple in the world quite like Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew. They divorced back in 1996, but somehow they never really separated. While most people move on, Fergie and Andrew carried on living together as if the royal split had never happened. Their chosen home, like the Grand Royal Lodge in Windsor, became a symbol of their strange but enduring bond. It wasn't a palace in the public eye anymore. It was their shared sanctuary, where the past and present lived under the same roof. They used to call themselves a happy divorced couple, and in many ways, they were exactly that. They shared daily life, meals, family events, and even vacations. To the outside world, it was baffling. How could two people who weren't married anymore remain so close? But for them, it worked. They said it was about family and friendship. They raised their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, side by side, giving them something rare in royal life: stability. When the girls came home for Christmas or birthdays, the house felt whole. Fergie often joked that she and Andrew were like the world's most content divorced pair, and maybe she meant it. Inside Royal Lodge, life was far from glamorous. It was quiet, private, and surprisingly normal by royal standards. There were no public events, no official duties, just a former couple who never stopped being each other's biggest supporters. Even when Andrew's reputation took a beating after his disastrous TV interview and his links to Jeffrey Epstein, Fergie stood by him. She defended him in interviews, calling him a good man and insisting he didn't deserve the treatment he got. To her, loyalty meant everything. But that loyalty is part of what made this eviction so painful. They had built their own world in that house, one that survived divorce, scandal, and royal reshuffling. To outsiders, it might have looked odd. Two exes living together in luxury while the rest of the family moved on, but it was their version of love, even if it didn't fit the traditional mold. The Royal Lodge wasn't just a property, it was the last piece of the life they'd built together. And when King Charles decided that chapter had to end, he didn't just end a living arrangement, he dismantled the only version of home that Fergie and Andrew had left. Why King Charles finally drew the line.
King Charles is on the front pages this morning after being heckled over his brother Andrew yesterday. It comes as it's reported that Prince Andrew is set to move into Frogmore Cottage following the ongoing controversy.
For years, King Charles tried to balance compassion with responsibility, especially when it came to his younger brother. But that balance finally snapped. Charles has been under immense pressure to modernize the monarchy, to make it leaner, more accountable, and far less indulgent. Public opinion has shifted sharply in recent years, and tolerance for royal freeloading has reached an all-time low. The king knew that if he didn't take a hard stance on Andrew, the criticism would eventually reach him.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew? What do you think should be MPs be allowed?
By forcing Andrew out of Royal Lodge and stripping away what little royal status he had left, Charles is showing that the era of unchecked privilege is over. The breaking point came as more embarrassing headlines surfaced. A new set of emails reportedly revealed that Andrew wanted to meet Jeffrey Epstein even after Epstein's release from prison. It was a jaw-dropping revelation that reignited outrage across Britain and beyond. For the palace, this wasn't just bad press. It was humiliation. Every time the public thought the scandal had faded, another reminder pulled it back into the spotlight. And for King Charles, who's determined to prove that his reign stands for integrity and reform, Andrew's name had become a recurring wound. Behind closed doors, insiders say the king gave his brother chance after chance, quiet warnings, private talks, and multiple reassurances that he could stay out of trouble. But Andrew's stubborn refusal to accept the new limits of his life only deepened the frustration. The palace had worked hard to contain the damage after his disastrous 2019 BBC interview, yet Andrew's unwillingness to fully retreat made it impossible for the royal family to move forward. The monarchy couldn't afford another scandal, and Charles knew it.
There is a feeling abroad among the public at large that this has got to go further. He's somehow got to be made to he's got to be punished more.
So when the final decision came down, it was swift and decisive. Andrew's remaining privileges were removed, and the message was unmistakable. No title, no protection, and no royal home. For the king, it was about saving the institution's credibility. For Andrew, it was a brutal reckoning, the end of the last royal comfort he'd clung to. And for Fergie, it was heartbreak by association, watching her ex-husband and lifelong companion be exiled from the only world they'd ever known. Charles didn't just draw a line. He made sure it could never be crossed again. The end of a royal chapter.
He has to pack his bags, he has to get out of Royal Lodge, he has to lock the doors, and he has to go.
Well, should the government step in, and what can they realistically do, Nadine?
The government should not step in, they shouldn't go anywhere near it.
You can almost picture it. Fergie and Andrew walking through the grand halls of Royal Lodge one last time, surrounded by echoes of a life that no longer fits inside the royal story. The portraits on the walls, the creak of the old floors, the sunlight falling through centuries-old windows. Everything holds memories of a different time. For decades, this wasn't just their address, it was their world. The Royal Lodge, tucked away in Windsor Great Park, had been Fergie's refuge through every scandal, heartbreak, and public humiliation. It was where she rebuilt herself after her divorce, where her daughters grew up, and where she found comfort in a quiet life away from palace politics. For Fergie, Leaving this home is more than just packing up boxes. It's saying goodbye to her last real tie to the royal life she once knew. When the world turned its back on her after her divorce and endless tabloid headlines, it was Andrew who offered her safety within those walls. She often described Royal Lodge as her safe place, the one spot where she could be herself without judgment. It wasn't about luxury for her, it was about belonging. The gardens where she walked with her dogs, the dining room where she shared tea with her daughters, even the quiet corners where she'd write her books, all of it carried pieces of her soul.
I think we fully support what the King has done in terms of removing Andrew's titles, stopping all of the public money that was going to him. Any further action, I think, should be based on...
Now, with the King's decision final, that chapter is closing. Palace insiders say the couple has been given only a short window to vacate the property. The plan being discussed is for them to move into Frogmore Cottage, the same home once occupied by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, or perhaps into smaller, separate estates on royal land. But no matter where they go, it won't be the same. Royal Lodge represented the last of the old royal world, the unspoken understanding that family ties could protect you from the consequences of scandal. As the movers prepare and the estate grows quieter, it's not hard to imagine Fergie taking one final look around, her eyes filling with tears. For her, this isn't just the end of a lease, it's the end of an era of love, loyalty, and a complicated royal bond that somehow survived everything except time. What this means for Fergie's future. For Sarah Ferguson, this moment feels like both an ending and a reckoning. For nearly 40 years, her life has been intertwined with Prince Andrew's through marriage, scandal, divorce, and an unlikely friendship that refused to fade. Even when she was no longer Her Royal Highness, she was still part of his world. Their shared home at Royal Lodge gave her a sense of belonging, a connection to the royal fold, even after she was officially out. But now, with the King's decision final, that safety net is gone. This isn't just a physical move. It's a turning point that forces Fergie to stand on her own completely for the first time in decades. What makes this so striking is how much she's already endured. Fergie has been a master of reinvention, hikes from being labeled Duchess of Disaster in the tabloids to becoming a successful author, public speaker, and charity ambassador. She's written children's books, self-help guides, and even appeared on television talk shows, often using humor to soften the public's perception of her. She's spoken openly about her mistakes and her mental health struggles, winning back a measure of sympathy over time. But even with all those achievements, her identity remained linked to Andrew. He was her family, her friend, and her constant anchor in the unpredictable world of royalty. Losing Royal Lodge in many ways means losing that anchor. It also means confronting a future without the quiet comfort of the man who stood by her through her own scandals. Insiders say she's heartbroken, not just because of the move, but because it feels like the last piece of her royal story has been taken from her. Yet if there's one thing Fergie has proven time and time again, it's that she knows how to survive. She's bounced back from debt, humiliation, and isolation before. The question now is whether she can do it again in a world that's far less forgiving than it once was. This could be her chance to finally redefine herself. Not as Andrew's ex-wife, not as a royal outsider, but as Sarah Ferguson, a woman who's lived through it all. Or perhaps it's the closing act of a long and complicated royal life. Either way, the next chapter will show whether Fergie's resilience still has one more comeback left in it. Public and media reaction. The reaction to King Charles's decision has been explosive. The British press, always hungry for royal drama, has turned this story into front-page material. Some headlines praised the king for doing what his mother, Queen Elizabeth, never could, finally holding Prince Andrew accountable. Others called it a cold move, suggesting Charles was willing to sacrifice family ties to protect the crown's reputation. TV commentators debated whether this was justice or cruelty, while royal experts argued over whether Fergie deserved to be caught in the fallout. The tone across the country has been divided. One side sees it as overdue reform, the other as heartbreak dressed up as duty. Online, the conversation has been just as fierce. Social media has turned Fergie into something of a tragic figure, the woman who never stopped being loyal. Hashtags like #Justice for Fergie and #TheLoyalOne have been trending, with thousands of users sharing old photos of her smiling beside Andrew through thick and thin. People who once mocked her for her scandals are now showing sympathy, saying she doesn't deserve to lose her home over her ex-husband's mistakes. Many call her the one who stayed, pointing out that while the rest of the royal circle distanced themselves from Andrew, she stood by him, not for power, but out of love and loyalty. Yet, the global audience is reading something bigger into all this. To many, this story isn't just about one couple being forced out of a palace estate. It's about how the monarchy is trying to survive in a new age. Public patience for royal privilege has worn thin, especially after years of scandals, expenses, and shifting loyalties. People want transparency, not tradition. They want accountability, not another royal cover-up. Charles's decision, harsh as it seems, fits the tone of modern Britain, a country less interested in fairy tales and more concerned with fairness. In the end, the public's reaction captures the tension at the heart of today's monarchy. There's admiration for Charles's firmness, pity for Fergie's pain, and exhaustion with royal drama altogether. It feels like a defining moment, not just for Fergie and Andrew, but for a royal family struggling to balance its crown with its conscience. The larger picture, the modern monarchy's reset. When you strip away the emotion and the headlines, what's really happening here is much bigger than Prince Andrew or Sarah Ferguson. This eviction is part of King Charles's quiet but firm mission to reshape the monarchy for the modern world. He's spent years watching the institution lose touch with the people it serves, weighed down by scandals, entitlement, and outdated traditions. By forcing Andrew out of Royal Lodge, Charles isn't just managing a family dispute. He's drawing a line between personal loyalty and public duty. This is his version of a royal reset, one that shows the world that the crown now answers to accountability, not bloodlines. The Royal Lodge once represented the old way of doing things, comfort for those born into privilege, no matter how much controversy surrounded them. But in today's world, that kind of indulgence doesn't sit well with the public. Charles knows it. The new generation of royal watchers demands transparency and purpose, not palaces full of silent relatives who no longer serve the crown. By cutting off his brother's perks and privileges, Charles is sending a message that no royal title is a shield against consequence. It's uncomfortable, even painful, but it's exactly what he believes the monarchy must do to survive in a skeptical age. For the public, this moment feels like watching the monarchy wake up to reality. The fairy tale image that once defined the royal family has been fading for years, replaced by a more human and sometimes flawed picture. Andrew's fall from grace and now Fergie's heartbreak are reminders that even behind the palace gates, the rules of modern morality apply. It's no longer enough to be royal, you have to be responsible. And that's the standard Charles is determined to uphold. In the end, Fergie's tears might symbolize more than personal pain. They mark the closing of a long, complicated love story, but also the beginning of a new royal era, one where loyalty to the crown means change, not comfort, one where the monarchy must prove its worth all over again. It's a bittersweet moment, but maybe that's exactly what history requires. A royal family finally facing the modern age, no longer protected by tradition, but tested by truth. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.